You gotta get your act together.
You feeling good? Yes. You feeling me? Very good. All right, let's get it on.
Harder and stronger, harder and stronger, harder and stronger.
Hairy, sweaty, macho.
Real physical strength. He'll never stop.
Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast. I'm Mike Catherwood, your faithful host. All right, hooray, yay, let's do it. Subscribe, like, do all that stuff. Tell a friend because the machines are beating me. The algorithms are winning. Let's make that not a thing. I can only do that with your help. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. Both the podcast and the YouTube extension of said podcast. All right, let's get to it. I think there needs to be some serious discussion, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, which is going to happen a lot because I think there's a lot of things that are very important to me that I don't think a lot of people hear very frequently, and they're things where I'm right. There's so few things where I can dig my heels in and go like, trust me, I'm right here. And I like to repeat the stuff that falls into that category because everybody's giving you crazy information. And they just feel totally comfortable doing it. Most people giving you fitness advice is like me giving you financial and investment advice. I'm not an idiot, I'm not irresponsible, but I don't have any real thorough understanding of markets and investments and what's wise and what's not wise. I guess if you're not fat, the equivalent to me in the financial world is like, I'm not fat. I'm not irresponsible. That's about it. Does that make me qualified to give people financial advice? No. And if you're not fat, it doesn't make you qualified to give people health and fitness advice. And there's so much that's said out there, and it's usually not true. And I like to just kind of hammer home these tenets that I know to be true so that you can kind of get some clarity, right? You can build on that. It's the basis behind Flex in the City and A Meathead's Guide to Salvation. This is the greatest female-tailored training manual. This is the greatest overall diet book that you can find. There you go, available in the profile. After I go through the fact that there is fundamental truths, right? When it comes to changing the way your body looks and making it work better and look better, there's fundamental truths, and these are foundational kind of tenets that I do want to hammer home and repeat, and maybe it's boring. Oh well. But there is a huge handful of things that are very, very, very individual. Like very individual. And I'm not saying this to confuse you further or to make you want to give up. What I'm saying is that when you hear that there's no other way to eat except for this way, this diet, if you don't eat plants and you only eat animal-based, is the only way that you can thrive, that may be true for the person that's telling you that. And the person who thrives on a vegan diet probably does thrive on a vegan diet. That does not necessarily mean that that works for you. And there's people in sub-Saharan Africa that eat nothing but root vegetables, and they seem to have incredible levels of muscular endurance. And there is people in Costa Rica that eat a ton of red meat and legumes, and they don't ever really eat root vegetables at all, and they seem to have incredible power and strength, endurance. My point being is that this machine we call the Homo sapien is incredibly adaptive, and it also is incredibly unique from creature to creature. And what we know of as our makeup, both physical and emotional, is pretty different from person to person. It can even be different from, twin to twin, let alone sibling to sibling. There are twins that are just completely different people, both physically and emotionally. Some people are dopamine kind of dominant. Some people are GABA dominant, serotonin dominant. Some people are very adrenaline driven. And, a lot of that plays a role into what you will find success with in training and diet. Some people have very, very a great distribution of slow twitch fibers. They're really good at endurance, and they don't necessarily wouldn't be the best sprinter or Olympic lifter, and they're not that explosive. Some people are super fucking explosive, and they get tired easily. You understand what I'm saying? And also, there's just metabolic differences. I knew this guy, Mike Salcido, and he's a good dude, and we used to train together. He's really jacked, at least he was. 2002, 2003, we'd work out together. He's a Hispanic kid. We were the same age. He was pretty muscular. He was leaner than I was, but I was a little taller and I think a little bit overall bigger. And we used to pump iron together, but we were relatively the same size, and we were preparing for a show, and we were working with the same guy, Alessandro Comadina. Great coach. Really smart guy. And Mike Salcido was eating like 300 grams of carbohydrates going into the show, and I would fall asleep if I had over 70 in a day. I mean, I would get so burnt out and tired. We were generally the same size, kind of same heritage, ethnically, same build, and that just goes to show, to some people, you got to understand person to person what we need and what makes it, what is optimal for us dietarily and optimal for us training wise is not going to be a universal thing. There's like this much stuff. Yeah, it's probably a good idea to up your protein if you're eating a very pedestrian amount of protein. That kind of covers all bases when it comes to different walks of life, different age groups, different genders, different types of people, different lifestyles. It's probably a good idea. We're seeing that metabolically, health-wise, longevity, especially if you're training hard, you want to be eating a little bit more protein than we once thought, 30, 40 years ago. The food pyramid kind of idea, it's just not, it's not a good idea. It's not true. Okay, that's true. You definitely want to get stronger. You should probably be pumping iron, whether you have any desire to be like a big muscle-bound person or not, whether you're an endurance athlete or a strength sport athlete, but you should be pumping iron at least a couple times a week for overall health, for longevity, for mood, for looking better. That's now, if we're going to get granular and start getting into details, whether or not you should be doing high volume with a moderate weight and higher rep ranges, or just going super balls to the wall with high intensity and higher weight, and how much frequency during the week, that really does vary from person to person, frankly, and it varies from the same within the same person's lifestyle. It's going to vary at different points. The amount of volume and intensity that I could tolerate at 46 years old is crazy different. And it's really hard to wrap my head around that because up until like 44, I was pretty much the same dude. I felt the same, I could recover the same, I felt just as strong, just as fast, and something happened around last year when I was almost about to turn 46, middle of my 45th year. I had to rethink things. I was getting injured a lot. My recovery is not as good. And that just changed, and I have changed the way I work. I have changed my exercise selection. I have changed what I look at as kind of optimal rep ranges. I have changed how many reps in reserve I have before I go to failure, or if I do go to failure, I kind of really had to rethink when and how I was going to do that. That's totally different than when I was 27. So I just wanted to kind of touch base on something and understand that we are not kind of like German shepherds, like every single human being, and that they all are really designed, every single one of us, whether we are a boy, girl, old, young, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, short and stocky, tall and lanky. It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. And frankly, your disposition makes a big difference. Dr. Drew and I used to always tell you, Dr. Drew's in very good shape. We were clearly in different kind of generations there. But Dr. Drew and I had a pretty similar, he's a very, very muscular guy, but he's not like a lanky dude. I was never a lanky dude, even though I'm a little guy. And, Dr. Drew and I used to talk, like the way that I would train a lot of times, if we'd be looking to pump iron before we go to Loveline, or maybe on the weekends meet up in Pasadena to the gym, pump some iron. He has a gym at his house. Maybe I'd lift some weights. The way that I would train sometimes would be genuinely miserable for him. It was just miserable for him. And sometimes the way people try to train with me, I find it freaking miserable, because I just want to I want to get my breath. I want to put my metal music in my, put my Hatebreed on in my ears, and I want to get 2 or 3 sets where I'm going to war, where I genuinely am going to war, where I'm questioning whether or not I'm gonna make it out okay, because I can't tolerate the stuff that's going on outside of that and that set, and I just have to make sure that I get that better, and I'm beating the logbook, and it gives me something. I genuinely enjoy that from a physical standpoint, but my disposition matches that, okay? And you know, I used to be involved in certain workouts with certain groups of people where I'd just be like, halfway through, I'd be genuinely thinking like, yes, it's fatiguing, it's tired, there's a certain level of effort that comes with it. I knew that going in. It's exercise, but this is fucking miserable. I don't know why anybody wants to do this. Why do you do this on purpose? Okay, so it's just one of those things that you have to take. Does that clear up a lot of things in general for you? Maybe. Does it clear up a lot of specific things for you? Probably not. It may make things a little bit more confusing for you. That's not what I was trying to do. What I was trying to do is give you some real, worthwhile, meaningful, kind of useful, tangible information, so that when you get told 11 different things right now after you get done looking at this, and you go on TikTok or you go on Instagram or you go on YouTube and you get told 11 different things about the same topic, I want you to comfortably be able to go, okay, maybe that's true. Maybe high volume is better. Maybe high intensity is better and low volume. Yeah, you know what? It's probably true for a certain group of people. I gotta test this out. I'm going to test this out and find out what group of people I'm in. I will reiterate and hammer home, there's those tenets that you go back to. Make sure you have a program and you're getting stronger in a well-cultivated collection of exercises, kind of that progressive overload. Come back and do it. Don't overtrain. 3 days a week is pretty good for just about any, and you have to be super high level advanced and probably using anabolic and androgenic compounds to really need to train more than 3 days a week with weights. Okay? Seriously. You have to be super high level, really experienced, be training a long time, and probably on drugs. If that's not the case, then there's very little need for you to be training more than 3 days a week with weights. You do those things, progressive overload, 3 days a week, solid week, be consistent, up your protein, and don't eat too many overall calories. And that nucleus right there, all the satellites that feed off of that nucleus, that planet, all the other stuff, the moons and suns that surround it, the amount of volume, the amount of reps, the amount of weight, the amount of frequency, the amount of carbs, the amount of fat, all of that can only be found out through trial and error and you doing it. But you have to get clear on the central nucleus. Up your protein. Don't eat too many calories if you're trying to lose body fat. Don't, be in a small surplus or at maintenance if you're trying to gain muscle mass. Up your protein, control the calories. Progressive overload. Don't overtrain. Make sure you're getting stronger. Do those things, and then as you go, you'll be able to fine tune it to best fit you and to collect your moons and satellites and all the things and all the electrons that circle around your nucleus of good stuff. Okay, like, subscribe, check out my ebooks, and remember, in this crazy mixed up world that makes you think that nobody cares, I do be good.